Dodgy stitching, uneven stitch length, inconsistent stitch length. It is so annoying and it's very frustrating because you can't apparently see why that is happening. But never fear, because I am here. I have got whole 5 reasons for you, but stick around because I've got a couple of bonus reasons for you that I've tacked on at the end, which I hope will help as well. Who am I? I am Kim. This is Quilt with Kim. You, my lovely, are very, very welcome. Let's go and find out what number 1 reason might be. So the first reason that you may well be getting uneven or inconsistent stitches is because you're pushing or you're pulling your fabric as it's going through the machine. You don't need to do that. Your feed dogs, which are those little serrated bits, will guide your fabric through the machine. It's a misconception that the needle controls the length of the stitch. It doesn't. The needle just goes on the spot up and down, and it's those feed dogs that draw your fabric through, and it's that controls the length of your stitch. So you need to let those feed dogs do their job properly. So what we do is we guide our fabric through the machine underneath the presser foot, but we don't push it from the front and we don't pull it from behind. We don't pull it through at an angle or anything like that. We guide it, but we let those feed dogs take it, and then that should help you get your consistent stitch length. The second reason is that your presser foot or the presser foot pressure might not be the correct one for what you are sewing. Let me explain. Your presser foot has to press down on the fabric, and that fabric has to be pressed onto those feed dogs that we've just been speaking about. And if it's not pressing down properly, then you're going to get inconsistent stitches. Your machine can't really get a grip of anything to feed it through properly. And that can be exacerbated by our first reason, which you're then pushing and pulling because you can see that it's not working properly. So there is a very easy solution to this, and there's a couple of solutions that you might want to investigate. First of all, if you've got a really light fabric, you might want to increase your foot pressure. Trying to say that, it's a bit of a tongue twister. Now, you're going to have to refer to your machine's manual as to how you alter your foot pressure. I can't tell here from every single machine that's out there, but with most machines, especially modern machines, there is a way to alter the foot pressure. The foot pressure, let's get this out, and if it's a light fabric, you really want it pressing down hard and on the maximum level that you can have, so it pushes the fabric down onto those feed dogs so the feed dogs can take that lighter fabric. But if you've got multiple layers or a trickier fabric, but normally multiple layers, your machine is going to struggle to take all those layers through at the same time. So in which case you need a walking foot. What is that? That is one of those. Now, I've got a whole video on walking feet, which I'll pop up at the end, but I'll also pop in the description below. But what these are designed to do is feed multiple layers through your machine at the same time. So you still need your foot pressure to hold your fabric down. I'm feeling like an influencer with this. Was I an influencer with all the... never mind. Anyway, we hold our fabric down with this, and you can see it's got teeth on the bottom there. I don't know if you can see that as I hold it up to the camera, and you can see these are serrated. And what happens is when you put this on correctly, those teeth underneath move at the same rhythm as your feed dogs. So all the layers that you're feeding through will feed through at the same rate, so you get that consistency in your stitch length. Also, as I said, if you've got tricky fabrics, try a walking foot. They are expensive. They're about, in the UK, they're about £35. I think it's kind of equivalent in the US and Canada as well, the sort of equivalent. They're more of an investment. I wouldn't say they're expensive. They look expensive compared to your normal feet. They're more of an investment, but you only need to ever buy one, obviously. What I will say is don't buy the generic ones. Buy the one that is made by the manufacturer of your machine. I can't get that word out, for your machine, because they're all slightly different, and the generic ones won't fit your machine properly no matter what they say, and can cause all manner of problems and can cause harm as well. So spend the money if this is causing the problem and get yourself a walking foot made by the manufacturer of your machine for your machine, and you should find that will help enormously. Okay, so what's next on our list? So next we're back to presser foot again. It causes all sorts of things. You thought it was just there to lower down onto your fabric. However, when you are threading, and I've covered this in another video because it affects all sorts of things, but when you are threading your machine, your top thread, make sure that presser foot is up. What that does is opens the tension discs. It allows the thread, when you're threading, to go inside those tension discs. When you put your presser foot down, it closes those tension discs onto your thread, so you get nice consistent stitches. However, if your thread is not in those tension discs, so you've threaded your machine with a presser foot down, then that can lead to your stitches being uneven or inconsistent because your thread is not really caught properly in the right places it needs to be, your tension discs being one of them. So it is a very easy fix. Just keep your presser foot up when you thread your machine, your top thread. You can lower it down to thread the needle, but when you're threading the machine, keep that presser foot up. Very, very simple fix. Number 4 then, if you're counting, is your needle. Now I had this idea I was going to display these out like a pack of cards and it's not working. Anyway, that is not going to end well. It hasn't ended well. In fact, to be fair, none of them are on the floor. However, what I'm trying to say is your needle type and size is important. If you've got the wrong type of needle, I'm just looking at the floor. Maybe I'll take a photo in a minute and pop it up on the screen. But when you've got the wrong type of needle, that can actually, or the wrong size of needle as well, that can struggle with trying to get through the fabric and making nice consistent stitches. So I've often found, particularly with when you're quilting, changing to a quilting needle. So I would recommend using a quilting needle in a size 90. I would show you what the packet looks like, but isn't that all down there? That didn't go well, did it? So a quilting needle in a size 90/14, that will give you nice consistent stitches going through your quilting. If that doesn't work, try a top stitch needle in a 90. That top stitch needles tend to help when all other needles don't. But it's important to have the right type and the right size of needles. I've got videos on needles, on types and sizes, which I'll link up in the description below that you can go and check out if you're not sure about that. The other thing, again, I've spoken about this subject in other videos, but the quality of your needle too. So is it bent or damaged or blunt in some way? You may not be able to see it, but your machine will know and will know all your little dirty secrets and will want a fresh new machine. So if your needle is blunt or damaged or bent in some way, you may not even be able to see it, but it will affect your machine and it will give you very dodgy stitches. So your needle size, your needle type, your needle quality, and have you got it put in properly? Because it's quite common, particularly for beginners, to have your needle in the wrong way and sometimes threaded the wrong way as well. So always make sure your needle is inserted properly with the flat to the back. So if you look at the top of your needle, there is a curved side and a flat side. That flat side always goes to the back of your machine, and make sure it's up in that little hole as far as you can go and tighten that screw tightly so it is in place properly, and that should help a lot as well. Okay, so let's get to number 5 in our list then. Number 5 is your bobbin. Had you thought about that one? Because if your bobbin is inserted incorrectly, if it's wound incorrectly, or if it is the wrong bobbin for your machine, and yes, bobbins are specific to your machine, they are not universal, so make sure that you've got the correct bobbin. Just like that walking foot earlier, make sure you've got the correct bobbin made by the manufacturer of your machine for your machine. And those are the bobbins that you are using, because that'll cut out a load of problems anyway. But if you have got the correct bobbin, then if it is wound incorrectly or inserted incorrectly, that can cause you inconsistent stitches, uneven feeds, and all sorts of manner of issues. So do check your bobbin. Also, sometimes when you've got little bits of thread caught in the bobbin housing, you'll want to investigate that and get that thread out as well, because that can cause all sorts of shenanigans when you are sewing, including inconsistent stitching. So that's my top 5, but don't go, because there are a couple of bonus reasons which you may not have thought about, which I've got coming up right now. The last 2 bonus reasons then are you going too fast? You may not have thought about that, but if you're going too fast, then the machine hasn't got time to make all those stitches in a consistent manner, particularly when you're quilting, because you've got a walking foot and it's going through those 3 layers. You need to go at a nice, steady, even rhythm to let your machine and your walking foot, in this particular instance, to make a nice, even, consistent stitch. Try and slow down and go at a nice walking pace and see if that fixes the problem. Then finally, if you have got tricky fabrics or light fabrics particularly, then your machine hasn't got anything to grip on. We've already spoken about your presser foot pressure, but there's also a level where you might want to stabilize that fabric. So if you get some stabilizer, if you've been watching me, you know I cannot say that word and I always say stabilize. So stabilizer, I really have to think about this. So if you get some stabilizer, so this is a whole roll of tearaway stabilizer, if you get some of this and then put it underneath your light fabric or a tricky fabric, you'll find that this helps your machine to make a nice, even and consistent stitch length. And that's because this stabilizer literally stabilizes the fabric, but it sits on those feed dogs, and the feed dogs can grip onto this properly, and it's your feed dogs that make that consistent stitch. So get yourself a roll of this or a packet of this from somewhere, and it will get you out of all sorts of difficulties. Well, with your sewing, not life difficulties. So I do hope that has helped. If it has, please don't forget to like, subscribe and hit that notification bell. I will love you, and I shall leave you for now, and I will look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.